The CEO stepped out of his sleek black car, adjusting his tie as the city, lights flickered, against the tall glass of the corporate tower. The evening was cold, the kind of cold that made most people hurry home. But he never hurried. Every movement he made was calculated, controlled, as if the world itself bent to his rhythm. To him, life was a ladder, each rung made of power, money, and influence, and he had climbed high enough that he barely remembered the ground below. His polished shoes clicked against the marble steps as he descended toward the street, his security detail following a step behind. His mind was already on the next day's negotiations, numbers spinning through his thoughts like gears in a well-oiled machine. But just as he approached the exit gates, he noticed a woman standing near the steps. She looked small against the towering building, clutching a stack of papers so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her face was weary, her clothes plain, and her posture carried the quiet weight of someone fighting battles unseen. Beside her stood a little girl in a faded pink coat, its fabric worn thin at the sleeves. She was holding a stuffed bunny missing one ear, but her big eyes sparkled with curiosity as she looked around the bustling street. Unlike her mother, the girl didn't seem beaten down by the world. She radiated the kind of innocence that didn't yet understand the harshness of life. The CEO might have walked past them without a second thought. But then it happened. The girl's eyes found his. She studied him not with fear nor awe, but with the boldness of a child who saw only a man, not the armor of wealth and authority he wore. He slowed, just for a heartbeat, and that was all she needed. She stepped forward, her small boots tapping against the pavement. Before anyone could react, she reached out and slipped her tiny hand into his. The CEO froze mid-step. His security stiffened, ready to intervene. But he raised his hand slightly to stop them. He looked down, startled, at the warm little hand holding his own. "Mommy needs a smile," the girl said, her voice soft but steady, carrying a kind of truth no adult dared speak to him. The words sank into him, piercing through the layers of indifference he had built over years of ruthless ambition. His chest tightened as though her words had found a locked door inside him and pushed it open. He glanced at the mother, who had lowered her head, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She whispered hurried apologies, pulling her daughter back, as if she feared the powerful man before her would be angered. But he didn't feel anger. Instead, a strange warmth spread from his hand, through his arm and into his chest. Sensation he hadn't allowed himself in years. For the first time in a very long while, he felt seen, not as a CEO, not as a man of power, but as a human being. That one touch, small, innocent, undeserved, echoed in the silence of his heart. And as he stood there, watching the mother tug her daughter gently away, the CEO realized something he never thought possible. The world he had built so carefully might not be the one worth living in. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the CEO's penthouse, spilling golden light across the polished marble floors. He had been awake all night, unable to rest. The city had carried on outside, traffic humming, lights glowing, but none of it touched him the way it usually did. For once, the numbers in his head, the meetings on his calendar, the endless chase for more, none of it mattered. What mattered was the memory of a small hand in his, and the words that had been whispered with such disarming honesty. "Mommy needs a smile." Those words had haunted him. They had stripped away the armor he wore, revealing something vulnerable and almost forgotten. He couldn't shake the thought of the woman's downcast eyes, the way she seemed to shrink into herself, as if life had pressed too heavily on her shoulders. And he couldn't forget the child's courage, her insistence that even a powerful stranger could offer something as simple as kindness. By mid-morning, he had made a decision that surprised even himself. He instructed his assistant to find the woman and her daughter. There was hesitation, confusion, even disbelief from his staff. Why was the most powerful man in the building concerned with someone so ordinary? But he was unshaken. For once, it wasn't about contracts or profit. It was about something far more human. When the woman finally entered his office, she looked nervous, clutching the same stack of papers he had seen before. She stood at the door as though she didn't belong there, her gaze fixed on the floor. The little girl, however, bounded in with bright eyes, her stuffed bunny hugged close to her chest. She looked around the spacious office as though it were a castle, untouched by fear or doubt. The CEO rose from behind his massive desk, something he almost never did for anyone. He walked toward them slowly, his polished shoes silent against the floor. The mother lowered her head further, murmuring apologies for her daughter's boldness the night before. Her voice trembled, heavy with shame and worry, as though she had ruined her chance at something she desperately needed. But then he did something unexpected. He bent down on one knee, lowering himself to the child's height, and offered her a genuine smile. His face felt strange as he did it. Those muscles hadn't been used in so long. "You reminded me of something I forgot a long time ago," he said softly, his voice steady yet warm. "Thank you for that." The little girl beamed, her small hands clapping together with excitement. To her it wasn't unusual. She had simply spoken from her heart, and the world had shifted because of it. Then his gaze lifted to the mother. Her eyes wide and uncertain, brimmed with tears as she finally dared to look at him. "Your strength," he told her gently, "deserves more than silence and struggle. You've been carrying too much alone. I want to help you, not out of pity, but because you and your daughter reminded me what really matters." The woman's lips parted in disbelief, her tears spilling freely now. She pressed the stack of papers closer to her chest, but her body no longer seemed as heavy, as burdened. For the first time in years, hope flickered in her eyes. The little girl slipped her hand into her mother's and giggled, as if she had known all along that this moment would come. The CEO, watching them, felt something stir inside him that no deal, no wealth, no empire had ever given him. It was simple, profound, and life-changing. He felt human again,